You're standing there, replaying every interaction in your head, telling yourself she doesn't like you. She doesn't text first. She doesn't chase. She doesn't give you the obvious green. Most people are trained to look for excitement as proof of interest. Fast replies, constant availability, open admiration, obvious pursuit. When those signs aren't there, the mind quickly labels the situation as rejection, but that belief is built on a misunderstanding of how attraction actually works when it becomes real. Shallow interest is loud, deep interest is careful, and restraint is often the first signal that emotions are stronger than someone is ready to admit. When a woman feels only mild curiosity, she behaves freely. There is nothing at stake. She can joke, flirt, respond quickly, or disappear without thinking twice. Her emotions are not invested enough to require control. But when she starts to care on a deeper level, behavior changes, not because she loses interest, but because she gains something to lose. Restraint appears the moment emotion creates vulnerability. Real attraction introduces risk. The risk of being seen, the risk of being disappointed, the risk of wanting something that might not be guaranteed. At that point, excitement no longer feels safe. Control feels safer. So instead of leaning forward emotionally, she slows herself down. She thinks before responding. She holds back words she wants to say. She creates space, not to disconnect, but to protect herself from revealing too much too soon. This is why restraint is so often misread. From the outside, it looks like indifference. From the inside, it feels like emotional management. She is monitoring herself because she is aware that her feelings are growing. And awareness is the difference between casual attraction and meaningful interest. You don't manage emotions you don't care about. Restraint also shows up when she is unsure how you feel. When attraction is mutual and obvious, excitement flows easily. But when uncertainty exists, restraint becomes a shield. She doesn't want to give more than she might receive. She doesn't want to expose her interest only to feel foolish later, so she balances herself, waiting for consistency, watching how you show up over time. Another reason restraint signals deeper interest is because it involves discipline. It takes effort to hold back emotions, to resist texting first, to delay responses, to act composed when feelings are active beneath the surface. People don't apply discipline where there is no value. They don't regulate what doesn't matter. The very act of restraint proves internal engagement. There is also a psychological shift that happens when attraction moves from fantasy to reality. When someone becomes emotionally significant, they stop being a game and start being a possibility. Possibilities are handled carefully. They are not rushed. They are observed. They are tested against reality. Restraint is part of that evaluation process. Importantly, restraint does not mean coldness. It does not mean avoidance. It exists alongside presence. She may still engage, still listen, still respond, but with a certain containment. The energy is quieter, more controlled, more intentional. This is the energy of someone who is thinking, replaying moments, and weighing outcomes internally. Many people sabotage this stage by reacting with insecurity. They chase excitement instead of stability. They demand clarity instead of allowing safety to build. But restraint responds to calm, not pressure. When you remain grounded, consistent, and emotionally steady, restraint slowly relaxes. Not because you forced it, but because safety replaced fear. Understanding this changes how you interpret behavior. You stop asking why she isn't doing more and start noticing why she is holding back. You realize that not all silence is absence. Not all distance is rejection. Sometimes restraint is simply emotion pausing, waiting for proof that it's safe to move forward. Inconsistent behavior is one of the most misunderstood signals in attraction. One day she's warm, engaged, and fully present. The next day she's distant, slower to respond, or emotionally quieter. For most people, this inconsistency triggers anxiety. The mind immediately labels it as games, loss of interest, or manipulation. But inconsistency often has nothing to do with playing games and everything to do with internal conflict. When emotions are shallow, behavior is steady because there is no emotional tension. A woman who doesn't care much can remain neutral and predictable. She doesn't overthink her words. She doesn't second guess her reactions. She behaves the same way every time because her emotions are not pulling her in different directions. Inconsistency begins when two opposing forces exist at once: attraction and self-protection. One part of her wants closeness. It wants to talk, connect, and explore what's happening between you. The other part is cautious. It questions whether getting closer is wise. It worries about timing, vulnerability, past experiences, or whether the interest is mutual. These two forces don't cancel each other out, they alternate. And that alternation is what you experience as inconsistency. This inner push and pull is exhausting for the person experiencing it. It's not calculated, it's reactive. When attraction feels strong, she leans in. When fear surfaces, she pulls back. Her behavior mirrors whichever emotion is louder in that moment. That's why inconsistency is not random. It follows emotional spikes. Moments of connection increase feelings, which then trigger caution. Distance reduces emotional intensity, which then allows attraction to resurface. Another layer of inconsistency comes from self-awareness. When a woman realizes she's starting to care, she becomes more conscious of her actions. She notices herself getting attached. She notices her thoughts returning to you. That awareness can create panic. To regain control, she changes her behavior. She becomes less available, more reserved, or emotionally cooler, not because attraction faded, but because it intensified. Past experiences also play a powerful role. If she has been hurt before, inconsistency becomes a defense mechanism. Her mind associates emotional closeness with loss or disappointment. So even when she feels drawn to you, her nervous system reacts with caution. She may crave connection while simultaneously fearing its consequences. This creates behavioral contradictions that look confusing from the outside, but feel necessary from the inside. Inconsistency can also be a subconscious test, not a manipulative one, but a protective one. She observes how you respond when things are not perfectly smooth. Do you remain calm or become reactive? Do you pressure her for reassurance or stay grounded? Your response tells her whether emotional closeness with you would feel safe or overwhelming. The way you handle inconsistency becomes information for her. This is why chasing clarity too aggressively often backfires. When someone is already conflicted, pressure increases the conflict. Demands for certainty force her to confront emotions she hasn't resolved yet. Instead of bringing her closer, it pushes her into further retreat. Calm presence, on the other hand, reduces internal tension. It allows her emotions to settle rather than escalate. The key understanding is this: inconsistency is not the absence of feeling. It is evidence of competing feelings. It means attraction exists, but it hasn't found stability yet. The mistake many people make is reacting to the behavior instead of the emotion behind it. When you interpret inconsistency as rejection, you respond with insecurity. When you recognize it as conflict, you respond with steadiness. Steadiness is what resolves inconsistency over time. Emotional conflict cannot survive in a stable environment. It either calms into clarity or fades away, but it cannot be rushed. Inconsistency is a phase, not a verdict. It is the sound of emotions trying to find their balance. Lingering looks and quick withdrawals are some of the most honest signals of attraction because they happen before logic has time to interfere. They are instinctive. A look lasts a fraction longer than it should, then suddenly breaks. A smile appears, then fades too quickly. From the outside, these moments seem small and easy to dismiss. But psychologically, they reveal a lot about what is happening beneath the surface. When someone feels nothing, their body remains neutral. Their eyes move casually. Their expressions stay consistent. There is no internal conflict driving their reactions. But when attraction exists, the body responds before the mind can organize itself. The eyes are especially revealing because they are drawn toward what the mind is focused on. When she looks at you without thinking, it means you already occupy mental space. The withdrawal that follows is just as important as the look itself. If she looks and holds eye contact comfortably, that suggests ease and emotional safety. But when she looks and then quickly pulls away, it signals awareness. She realizes she has revealed something. That realization creates vulnerability. The withdrawal is not rejection, it is correction. She is reasserting control after an unguarded moment. This pattern happens because attraction creates a temporary loss of self-monitoring. In the moment, emotion takes over. As soon as awareness returns, restraint follows. That back and forth creates the micro signals people often overlook. She may glance at you when you speak, then look down. She may watch you interact with others, then suddenly occupy herself with something else. These are not random movements. They are emotional reflexes. Lingering looks also carry intensity. They are not casual scanning glances. They are focused, attentive, almost searching. When someone is attracted, they are not just looking at you, they are reading you, your expressions, your tone, your energy. That kind of attention requires emotional investment. It means she is processing you internally, not just reacting externally. Quick withdrawals often come from fear of exposure. Attraction feels private before it feels safe. She may not be ready for you to notice how much she notices you. The moment she becomes aware that you might catch her looking, she retreats. This retreat preserves emotional distance while her feelings are still unresolved. Another important detail is repetition. A single look means little, but repeated moments of eye contact followed by withdrawal create a pattern. Patterns indicate ongoing thought. They show that the attraction is not situational but sustained. Each time her eyes return to you, it reinforces the idea that her attention keeps circling back, even when she tries to redirect it. These signals are often stronger in quiet moments, when conversation pauses, when attention drifts, when no one is performing socially. That is when instinctive behavior surfaces. In those moments, the mind relaxes and the body reveals what the heart is holding. People often miss these signs because they expect attraction to announce itself. They look for bold gestures instead of subtle leaks. But deep attraction doesn't rush to be seen. It emerges in fragments, in glances that last just a second too long, in expressions that change when you enter the room, in withdrawals that happen not because she wants to leave, but because she feels too seen. Understanding this shifts how you interpret silence and distance. You stop assuming absence of interest and start noticing where attention flows naturally. Because attention, especially when it's quickly hidden, is one of the clearest indicators of what someone is truly thinking about. When someone remembers small details you never emphasized, it reveals where their attention has been spending time. Memory is selective. The mind does not store everything it hears. It stores what feels emotionally relevant. So when a woman recalls something you mentioned casually, something you didn't highlight or repeat, it means your words stayed with her beyond the moment they were spoken. Casual conversations usually pass through the mind without leaving a trace. They serve the moment and then disappear. But when emotional interest is present, the brain begins to tag information differently. Details connected to you gain weight. Your tone, your phrasing, even offhand comments become meaningful because they are linked to a person she is thinking about privately. This kind of memory isn't about intelligence or effort. It's about emotional focus. When someone cares, their mind replays interactions, not deliberately, but naturally. Moments resurface during quiet time. A sentence you said loops back unexpectedly. A story you shared gains new interpretation. Through repetition, those small details become familiar, and familiarity creates recall. Remembering details also indicates curiosity. She is not just reacting to you in the present. She is building an internal picture of who you are. She notices patterns, preferences, and values. That process requires mental engagement. People do not invest that level of attention unless they are emotionally involved. There is also an unconscious desire for connection behind this behavior. When she brings up a detail you once mentioned, it's often an attempt to enter a shared moment. It recreates closeness. Even if she doesn't frame it emotionally, the act itself signals that the connection mattered enough to preserve. Another layer is emotional validation. Remembering details allows her to feel closer without risking direct expression. She may not say she misses talking to you, but recalling something personal achieves the same effect indirectly. It's a safer way to connect while keeping vulnerability controlled. Small details often carry emotional weight because they are not filtered through performance. You didn't say them to impress. You said them naturally. That authenticity makes them stick. When she remembers those moments, it means she was paying attention to the real you, not just the version presented in structured conversation. This behavior also shows continuity of thought. Her interest didn't reset after each interaction. It continued. Memory bridges time. It proves that you were present in her thoughts between encounters. When someone remembers details, it means the connection existed even in your absence. People who are indifferent rarely remember specifics. They remember outcomes, not nuances. They recall that a conversation happened, not what was said. But emotional involvement sharpens perception. It turns fragments into meaningful pieces of a larger picture. Noticing this changes how you interpret her behavior. You stop focusing only on frequency of contact and start paying attention to depth of attention. You realize that presence in someone's memory is often more revealing than presence in their messages. Because what the mind chooses to remember quietly often speaks louder than what the mouth is ready to say. When your absence changes her behavior, it reveals something words rarely can. Absence removes performance. It strips away politeness, routine, and habit. What remains is reaction. If she didn't care, your distance would barely register. Life would continue at the same rhythm. But when she does care, your absence creates an internal disturbance. And that disturbance eventually shows up in her behavior. Attraction thrives on emotional presence. When you are around, she can regulate how much she feels by interacting with you directly. But when you step back, that regulation disappears. The mind fills the gap. Thoughts increase. Curiosity grows. Questions surface. Your absence becomes a space her emotions move into. That is why distance can sometimes make feelings louder rather than quieter. Behavioral shifts caused by absence are rarely dramatic. They are subtle. She may become quieter than usual or slightly colder or unexpectedly more attentive when you do interact again. These changes are not strategies. They are adjustments. Her emotional system is recalibrating to the change in stimulus. Sometimes the shift appears as withdrawal. She seems more distant than before. This often gets misinterpreted as loss of interest. But emotionally, withdrawal can be a form of self-soothing. When your absence increases emotional intensity, she may pull back to reduce that intensity. It is not indifference, it is regulation. Other times, absence triggers the opposite response. She becomes more responsive, more engaged, more present. This happens when the fear of losing connection outweighs the fear of vulnerability. Her behavior moves closer to you because distance created awareness of value. What matters is not the direction of the change, but the fact that a change occurred at all. Indifference is static. Attachment is reactive. When emotions are involved, systems respond to disruption. Your absence is that disruption. Absence also removes certainty. When you are consistently present, your place feels secure. When you step back, uncertainty enters. That uncertainty forces the mind to reassess importance. She begins to notice what it feels like when you are not there. Emotional contrast sharpens perception. This is why people often realize feelings after someone creates space. It's not manipulation, it's clarity. Presence can mask emotion through familiarity. Absence exposes it through contrast. The heart often recognizes value only when it's missing. Her behavior during your absence is also influenced by her attachment style and past experiences. If she has learned to suppress emotions, she may become more closed off. If she is more expressive, she may seek reconnection. Both reactions still point to emotional impact. The key mistake many people make is responding to these shifts with anxiety. They chase reassurance or try to force consistency. That pressure increases internal conflict. Calm acceptance allows her emotions to settle naturally. When you observe how absence affects her, you gain insight into your emotional significance, not through what she says, but through what changes when you are no longer there. Because what moves when something is removed reveals how deeply it was integrated. What someone holds back often reveals more than what they openly express. Words are filtered. Actions can be controlled. But restraint, the deliberate pause before saying something, the emotion swallowed instead of released, comes from awareness of value. People don't hold back around those who don't matter. They express freely, carelessly, without fear of consequence. Restraint appears only when something feels important enough to protect. When a woman feels emotionally neutral, she has nothing to manage. She can say what she wants, react however she feels, and move on without reflection. There is no internal dialogue asking, should I say this? Or what will this change? But when feelings deepen, that internal dialogue becomes constant. Every word carries weight. Every reaction feels like it could shift the balance. So she pauses. She edits herself. She holds back. This holding back is not deception. It is emotional caution. She is aware that revealing too much could expose her vulnerability. Attraction creates a sense of risk, and restraint becomes the way she minimizes that risk while still staying connected. She wants to express, but she also wants to stay safe. That tension produces silence, pauses, and unfinished thoughts. You can often sense this in conversations. There are moments where she starts to say something, then redirects. Moments where emotion surfaces briefly, then disappears behind a neutral expression. These moments are not empty. They are full of unspoken meaning. The unsaid words matter because they were stopped, not because they didn't exist. Restraint also shows up emotionally. She may feel strongly but choose to respond calmly. She may care deeply but avoid showing need. This doesn't mean the feeling is weak. It means it is being managed. Emotional control requires energy. People invest that energy only when they care about the outcome. Another reason restraint is so revealing is that it often contradicts desire. Desire wants release. It wants expression. When someone resists that urge, it means another force is present, usually fear of loss, fear of judgment, or fear of imbalance. Those fears arise only when something feels valuable enough to lose. Holding back can also be a way of observing you. She watches how you behave without giving away her full position. She wants to see your consistency, your emotional stability, your reactions. This is not manipulation, it is information gathering. She is deciding whether it is safe to let her guard down. Many people misinterpret restraint as lack of interest and respond by withdrawing emotionally or overcompensating. Both responses miss the point. Restraint is not absence, it is containment. It means emotion is present but controlled. When you remain steady in the presence of restraint, something important happens. The need to hold back slowly fades. Safety grows. Expression becomes easier, not because you demanded it, but because you earned it through consistency. Understanding this shifts how you read silence. You stop assuming that what isn't said doesn't exist. You begin to notice pauses, changes in tone, and emotional micro movements. You realize that what she is protecting often matters more than what she is showing. In emotional dynamics, expression is cheap. Anyone can talk. Anyone can perform, but restraint is costly. It requires awareness, discipline, and emotional investment. And people only pay that cost when something truly matters to them. If you step back and look at the full picture, a clear pattern emerges. The strongest signals of attraction are rarely loud or obvious. They don't announce themselves through constant attention, dramatic gestures, or perfect consistency. They live in restraint, in hesitation, in the moments where emotion is present but carefully controlled. When someone is thinking about you deeply, their behavior becomes layered, not simple. The mistake most people make is searching for certainty in surface level actions while ignoring emotional patterns underneath. They look for excitement and miss awareness. They look for pursuit and overlook self-control. But real emotional investment creates caution, not recklessness. It creates pauses, internal conflict memory, and behavioral shifts that only exist when something meaningful is at stake. When you understand this, you stop chasing validation and start observing truth. You become calmer, more grounded, and less reactive. That steadiness is what allows genuine connection to either grow naturally or reveal itself honestly. Because when attraction is real, it doesn't need to be forced. It shows itself quietly, consistently, and in ways that only someone paying attention will notice.